A second group of Palestinian refugees has arrived in South Africa, igniting widespread public concern and frustration. The most recent flight, carrying 153 people, landed at OR Tambo International Airport, where the passengers were held on the aircraft for roughly 12 hours due to missing or incomplete documentation. This comes after an earlier group of 176 Palestinians arrived in October, also without prior public notification. One of the central questions South Africans are asking is who facilitated this entire operation. This has become a major point of debate because the information released so far has been inconsistent. According to public statements made after the incident, the humanitarian organization Gift of the Givers played a significant role. Their representatives claimed they were involved in receiving the refugees and helping resolve the documentation issues once the plane had already landed. They also stated that senior officials from government departments, including International Relations and Home Affairs, intervened after the fact to clear the passengers. However, other government departments have contradicted this, with some officials saying they were never formally informed that a chartered flight of Palestinians was on its way to South Africa. This contradiction has added to public confusion. People want to know whether the government approved this trip in advance, whether the involvement of officials happened only after the controversy began, and whether any external or private groups coordinated the flights behind the scenes. There have even been questions about who funded the chartered aircraft, who coordinated travel out of Gaza and through Kenya, and why proper documentation was not secured beforehand. These questions remain largely unanswered, and the lack of clear information has intensified suspicion. Across the country, the public reaction has been overwhelmingly negative, not because South Africans oppose Palestinians, but because they feel they were kept in the dark. Citizens are asking why a plane carrying foreign nationals in a humanitarian emergency could land without clear communication with the host country's institutions or its people. Many see this as a breakdown in basic governance and transparency, especially at a time when trust in state institutions is already extremely low. South Africans repeatedly say they support Palestine and understand the humanitarian emergency, but they also argue that the country is facing its own severe crisis. With unemployment at 32%, millions living in poverty, and essential services collapsing, people believe South Africa is not in a position to assume additional burdens. Communities already struggling with shortages of water, electricity, healthcare, housing, and safety are questioning how the state can suddenly express urgency, coordination, and resources for foreign arrivals when local citizens have been waiting for years without similar attention. Many residents describe the situation as comparable to a mother who donates her entire paycheck to charity while her own children have nothing to eat at home. The analogy captures a widespread feeling that the government displays more compassion and responsiveness toward international political causes than toward the survival of its own population. People are asking how the state can mobilize support so quickly for incoming refugees when South Africans themselves face daily hardships that remain unaddressed. The public also continues to question why South Africa, a nation with limited resources, is taking in refugees when wealthy Middle Eastern countries located closer to Palestine, such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, are not offering large-scale entry. Many point out that not even North African countries are lending a helping hand, and they ask why a distant, struggling Southern African nation must bear this responsibility. Another recurring point of comparison is Sudan. South Africans note that Sudan is experiencing an active war that has displaced millions, yet there have been no chartered flights to bring Sudanese refugees to safety in South Africa. This inconsistency has fueled criticism, with many arguing that if the country is willing to intervene in humanitarian crises abroad, the same courtesy should extend to African nations experiencing devastating conflict. Many South Africans are questioning the government's foreign policy priorities. While the country has positioned itself at the forefront of calls to take Israel to the International Criminal Court over the conflict in Gaza, citizens ask why the same urgency is not applied to other crises. They question why South Africa has not taken similar action against the UAE for its role in Sudan, or pursued accountability for those responsible for atrocities in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The public sees a discrepancy between international advocacy and domestic capacity, and wonders why the government is intervening abroad while pressing domestic challenges remain unaddressed. There is also growing concern among South Africans about the role of non-governmental organizations in the country. Many citizens feel that some NGOs, such as Gift of the Givers, appear to be making decisions or taking actions that should fall under government authority. raising questions about sovereignty. Beyond refugee matters, the public has expressed worry that certain NGOs operate in ways that seem dodgy and may sometimes be paid to carry out questionable activities that do not align with national interests. This has fueled fears that NGOs are overstepping their mandate, undermining government authority, and influencing the country's affairs without sufficient accountability or transparency. As questions continue to rise, citizens want clear answers about who facilitated the flights, who authorized the entry, who paid for the travel, and who will be responsible for the refugees' accommodation, health care, and daily needs. With no comprehensive explanation from the government, people fear that more groups may arrive without proper planning or public communication. This fear is driven not by hostility toward Palestinians, but by the deep frustration of a population that feels overlooked and overwhelmed while the state extends resources to others. For many South Africans, the core issue remains government transparency and national priorities. The public is demanding clarity, accountability, and honesty about how these flights were arranged, who approved them, and what will happen next. The prevailing sentiment is that while they support the people of Palestine, South Africans are struggling to survive and cannot afford to inherit additional problems during a time of national crisis.